She was arguably the world's most recognised female politician. Hailing from Pakistan's Bhutto dynasty, Benazir Bhutto followed her father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, into politics. Like him, she met a violent fate. And now a new documentary charting her life and the events in the run-up to her death in Pakistan is being released. To discuss this, I'm joined by Benazir Bhutto's former friend, former American advisor, Mark Siegel. Welcome to the program. You helped to produce the documentary. We're also joined by Duane Bauman, who directed the film. Welcome to both of you. Let's just take a look at a clip from your film, just to give us a sense of it.
The mandate for freedom, for dignity, for equality, for hope, for entering the 21st century with technology and science.
If there's one thing that we should know about Benazir Bhutto is that she never shied away from a fight.
The woman would go out of her way, using the Quran to debunk the jihadist myth on women, on other religions, on tolerance, on democracy. It was such a strong denunciation of the jihadist view of Islam and of terrorism in Pakistani society, and those who would strangle Islamic innovation across the world.
The conservatives, the religious groups in Pakistan saw Bhutto not just as a threat to their ideals, to their way of life, to what they wanted for Pakistan. They saw Benazir as a threat to Islam itself. She did represent reconciliation of these various strands of ideas.
She brought fiber optics to Pakistan. She brought cell phones to Pakistan. She brought CNN and BBC to Pakistan.
Mark, a hard documentary to make about a good friend?
Difficult to make, but important to make, and it was an honor to work on this film.
And why was it important to make?
Because her legacy is something that has to be remembered and preserved. She was the modern face of Islam. She was the jihadist's worst nightmare. She was a woman of great courage and dignity. And I think she is the future, even in her death. Her legacy will prove to be the future of Islam.
What is this? Is this really a tribute to Benazir Bhutto? Because, of course, you have all the contacts and the insights of a close friend of Benazir Bhutto, but, of course, you also want to give an unvarnished account or some kind of an account?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was one of the great benefits of the relationship that Mark and I had. Yeah, Mark brings a lifetime of incredible contacts, including the family of Benazir, her oldest daughter, Bakhtiar, Asifa Bhutto Zardari, as well as the chairman of the PPP, Bilawal. And at the same time, we went out of our way and wanted to make sure that the documentary was one that was fair, balanced, and as best as I could, unbiased, by bringing in people like General Musharraf, people like Fatima Bhutto, to be able to have their point of view and balance that and allow the audience to make up their mind about this incredibly formidable figure.
Well, you mentioned Fatima Bhutto, who, of course, is the niece of Benazir, but let's just listen to what she had to say.
Denied her right to rule. Benazir did not take the same chances the second time. The corruption was more extensive and it was grander.
This is all part of a smear campaign against her.
Mark, you yourself have said that you're very thin-skinned when it comes to criticism of Benazir Bhutto. I mean, I think that's been one of the criticisms of the documentary, or at least the comments, that it is more of a hagiography, that you mention some of the criticism, but don't delve into sort of the whole case on corruption, for example.
Yeah, and I take exception with it. We worked extremely hard. We brought in John Burns from the New York Times, who wrote the article, The House of Graft. The interesting thing about this, and I'm glad that the discussion and that people will have opinions about it, because that is the purest reflection of this incredible woman. Lover or hater, there was nobody in the middle left unaffected. But one of the most important points to remember about politics in general, and especially politics in Pakistan, is that when you go headlong against the establishment doesn't show up with flowers to greet you. They show up, in Pakistan's case, with suicide bombers, with assassins, and in the end, they attempt and sometimes succeed, unfortunately, in bringing down the person who wants to upset their apple cart.
Of course, there's extraordinary historical footage of I was the BBC Pakistan correspondent during most of the time she was in power and when she came back. And it always strikes you that the history of, let us say, Benazir and the Bhuttos is very much the history of Pakistan.
The PPP was started by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in the late 60s. So we're talking about most of Pakistan's existence, 4/6 of Pakistan's existence, and have certainly Benazir shaped very much the last 20 years.
What did you find exploring it? What did you come out thinking about Pakistan and its future?
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time there. My first time, it was incredible. It was eye-opening, and I think that the most important thing that I learned was that I want to learn more. And I think that from a Westerner's perspective, being able to see a documentary like this that does intertwine a life with the country is so important as we confront the war on terror. Pakistan as the epicenter of that, so we can understand how hard Pakistan and President Zardari are fighting their war on terror, and what our role is in being able to help build a democratic Pakistan from the West.
Yes, well, of course, Mark, you were one of the strongest voices after she was assassinated, saying that all of the warnings had not been heeded, but you had a chance now to perhaps lay those ghosts to rest. Thank you very much for coming in to see us today, Mark Siegel and Dwayne Bauman,
Thank you
and
for
on your
having
documentary.
Us. Thank you very much.
You're watching World News Today. Still to come, the hosts South Africa feature in today's opening game against